Welcome to our latest installment of Solutions for Success. My name is Jonathan Hamilton, and I'm the president at Point Alliance. Today's topic, Microsoft Endpoint Manager. Very topical in these times as remote workforces are very prevalent in many organizations. Endpoint Manager may or may not be a name that you're familiar with. Some of you may be more familiar with Microsoft Intune, which is a component of Endpoint Manager, as well as Configuration Manager. But we're lucky enough today to be joined by John Zeri, CEO of Point Alliance, to take us through a high-level overview of the Microsoft Endpoint Manager solution, how it works, how you can manage your Windows 10 devices, Mac OS, mobile devices. And for many of you, this may be an entitlement that you already have. So without further ado, we'll turn it over to John.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate the introduction, and thank you all for attending today's session. As Jonathan mentioned, we're going to go over Microsoft Endpoint Manager and what's involved and so on. And we also, you will see there's a Q&A section on the site that if you have any questions, just please feel free to post your questions and we make sure they get answered. And if something that we need to take away, we will get it answered and back to you. That said, I have a few pages of slides, and then we're going to go into the app and give you a tour of it. Again, that app is very extensive, and we will not be able to cover all area. But that said, our goal is that to kind of give you a good idea of the what is happening and so on. So with that said, let's just go to our agenda. So a short introduction. What is Microsoft Endpoint Manager? As I say, what and why. Microsoft Intune. I'm going to emphasize on the automated device enrollment. That's one of my favorite area within the whole Endpoint Manager. And as I mentioned, give you a tour. Just to give you a little bit about Point Alliance. Again, we are a IT consulting firm based of Toronto, specialized with the Microsoft Cloud team, SharePoint, Dynamic, Endpoint Manager, and Power BI. We have 10 different Microsoft competency with the 3 of them to be gold. A little bit about myself. Again, as Jonathan mentioned, I'm the CEO at Point Alliance. You can reach me at this email address or on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to connect with you. All right. So Microsoft Endpoint Manager, the renaming was done many months ago, and to kind of bring the 2 different elements of the device management under the same umbrella. So Intune, which is the cloud device management, and then you have the config manager console, which is the on-premise configuration manager that you would traditionally have. Again, the whole goal is that you want to shift to the cloud and to kind of remove the need for any infrastructure on premises, but these 2 work together. And there are scenarios that you will need both of these to work together and in the co-managed workload. So what is the Microsoft Endpoint Manager? Basically, is a single integrated platform for managing, protecting, and monitoring all your organization's endpoints. Again, endpoints include your mobile devices, your desktop computers, your virtual machines, embedded devices, servers, and so on. So it really covers the whole spectrum. And it is very important, especially these days, that people working remotely and we don't have the traditional control of that. We're going to control our network. So within the network, we are safe. Again, everybody is working from home, and we need to make sure that all entry points are safe and secure. Some of the areas, I'm not going to go through every bullet, and we're going to be sharing this presentation later on our website, and we post this video on our YouTube channel, so you can check this one later. But again, the main areas, why do we need this one? We want to make sure to protect the data that people that the organization are accessing. You want to make sure that people using the proper credential, you safeguarding the devices, And also that said, with all those safeguards in place, you want to make sure that people have a experience that they're able to do the job. You want to make sure that your security roles are consistent, right? With traditionally, you probably build the laptop within your organization, and depends who set up the laptop, the configuration could be slightly different. With Endpoint Manager, you can confirm all of the configuration are consistent across all devices and type of devices. So these are all very important. Again, security that is a forefront for every organization, and we're going to touch on that as well and how that's going to work. So as I mentioned, the whole idea is that we want to kind of ideas that to move to the cloud device management, and that's what we're going to focus today within the Microsoft Intune. That again, we can configure how the devices want to be. We want to protect our data. We can manage the apps that people need to see within the devices. We can set up things like a tunneling that people can access internal data without the VPN through a device that has been is a full compliance with your application and so on. So it really opens the door to do lots of things without having to have a direct access to that PC to kind of configure it. So you set up all this configuration, and you can set up all those things based off the different user types, right? So it's not just one setup for everybody. So it depends on the type of the user it is for management, for different type of groups that need different access. So all that's set up within the Microsoft Intune. And again, within the Intune, again, same idea as with the Microsoft Endpoint Manager, which is Intune is the cloud portion of it. Enroll devices. That's one of my favorites, and I'm going to emphasize on that. They're going to show you how easy it is to enroll new devices. Remote access managing devices. You want to add a new policy, or you want to give them a way to kind of how you want people log into the OneDrive, for example, or what happened if they open a document that is infected, how that should be treated, or if you enroll in a new device, again, you want to set up the BitLocker and how the BitLocker keys are stored and so on what level of encryption you want to use the different machines, and so on. Or manage the apps. Who should get what kind of apps? People getting the Office apps, and some users might need different type of apps. And also, once you set up the apps, the app protection, right? We have mixed devices that if something that you have access to that certain app, can I copy that to my personal part of the device or not? So again, those are all very important that Intune will take care of it for you. So as we're working remotely, it is very important that we're able to kind of enroll new devices. Again, we are almost a year into the COVID pandemic, and we are still all working from home. You want to kind of enroll new devices. Again, you're going through a cycle. And again, when I talk about devices, it could be a Windows device, could be an iOS device, or it could be Android. And how can we do this thing that with as least amount of the touch as possible? So within the Windows, and I'm going to use the example for Windows, iOS, and Android. So within the Windows, let's just say your organization is buying a new load of the laptops that you need to enroll. So when you buy a laptop, you can request it from the vendor you're buying it to provide you with the hash keys of the device. So the hash keys are identifier for that machine. So when you get that hash key, probably get on a USB key, you upload it to the Endpoint Manager. So you associate those machines with your tenant. So when the user will log into the device, will be able to go through it on the brand new machine without being part of your network from home and enroll that machine to a specification set for that user. And I will show you some screen capture of that. Same thing can happen within the iOS devices and so on. So within the iOS devices, and that this is called out-of-box experience, basically. So again, with the Windows, you can set it up to be autopilot white glove. Basically, everything gets set up, brand new machine. You go through a couple of screens. The machine gets set up for the user. They get all the software they want, all the security, the way you set up the encryption, and how you want the application open and what they get. And again, with the iOS as the same as the Android. So just to kind of show you a couple of screens. So within the Windows device, and you start a brand new machine, and you can see on the top left of the screen, first thing you get is it says choose your language. So you on that screen, what do? You press the Windows key 5 times, and will get you to this special screen that is hidden unless you push the Windows key 5 times to provisioning. Once you do that, you say you want to go to the Windows autopilot provisioning, and will get you to the auto configuration. And again, how does it know which organization the person belonged to? Because we got the hash key of those machines from the vendor when imported in our Microsoft Intune. So when you do that, the machine look into the Microsoft cloud, look for that hash key, and realize, oh, the hash key is connected to the, let's just say, with the Point Alliance. So we'll bring that configuration in. We go through the process of it, device configuration, device setup, and so on, and the setup get completed. Again, very little touch, a couple of clicks here, and again, it's about consistency. So if you enroll in a machine to people, imagine now what you can do. You can just ship it to the user to their home address and provide them with a 2-pager to say how you can set up the machine. On the Android devices, this is another my favorite that how it works. So Android devices, again, you get a brand new Android device, you start it, and you first screen you get on the left here, so let's go English. So on this screen, you tap on the screen, anywhere on the screen, 7 times. You keep tap, tap, tap on the screen 7 times, and the camera kicks in because it knows what those tabs mean. So once the camera come in, your IT, what it does, has provided you with a QR code already. So you receive an email with a QR code, and all you have to do, point that camera now to that QR code. Once you do that, it will ask you for your network in case you have a SIM card is fine, but you probably want to get access to your Wi-Fi as well. So you get to your Wi-Fi, and this will walk you through it. And now you got a brand new Android device, could be set up for the work and home setup as well. So basically, you have a work tab and you have a personal tab, and all's done at your own pace at home. So IT didn't have to touch anything. All they had to do, provide you with that QR code. And once this is completed, this device get added to the Endpoint Manager, and the IT could be 100% sure that that device was set up to the requirement of the organization without a doubt. Within the iOS device, what you can do, and again, I had this screen. So when you buy an iOS device through a vendor, you tell them you want to be enabled for the automated device enrollment. And every organization have a unique key. So they will associate that with your organization. So you get a brand new iOS device, unwrap it, you send it to the user, they unwrap brand new device, turn it on, and that device right away recognizes that this is not a normal device. It is an enrolled device. So it will say, for example, it was for Point Alliance, welcome to Point Alliance. And we'll ask you to username and password, and that will be our Active Directory user and password, or Azure Active Directory user and password. So I'll put my email and password. Imagine that. I say okay to that and build a machine for me. One of the important things is that, especially with the mobile devices, with the iOS or Android devices, people probably have their own personal devices too. And maybe they don't want to use their own Apple ID, or they don't want to use their own personal Gmail account. With these two methods of enrollment, you're not using their ID whatsoever to apply the apps to a device, because you already bought the apps on behalf of the organization. So all these two type of devices can be enrolled without need for a personal account. So again, your iOS device get all set up, you get all the apps you need, all the placement of where you want to put which icon and what. Same thing with the Android device, and it's done all for you. So how great that is. Again, shipping brand new devices, a Windows device, Android device, or iOS to the end user, and they can, with a few inputs and clicks, they can get the machine, that device up and running without any touch point. And that's, again, is very important. And just where does the endpoint manager stand? Again, based off the Gartner, there you can see on the top right as a leader of the device management. And one of the other great things that because you are already using the Microsoft technology, and the endpoint manager is just another layer there. It's integrated so well. You don't have to kind of have another third-party tool to sync all the users and everything like that. Everything is there. As Jonathan mentioned, most of you probably have entitlement and depends on top of your license. So if you have any type of Microsoft licenses, that would be Microsoft Business Premium or Microsoft 365 E3 or Microsoft 365 E5, you would have Intune as part of it. If you have an Office E3 or licenses, this is an add-on. You can add it easily. You can add the Endpoint Manager as an add-on to your license and allow you to kind of provide the security within your organization without having to go buy a third-party tool and integrate with that. So that said, let me just give you a demo of the application. Again, the application is massive. And one of the things that at Point Alliance we do, we help our clients to kind of enroll this into organization. And once we have it up and running and we hand it over, so again, doesn't need our help going forward, but we are there to kind of set up all the required setup and configuration and everything you need as a foundation, and then you can go from there. So I'm just gonna open my browser here. As you can see here, that what we have, this is you go to the endpoint.microsoft.com, you get to this dashboard, and you see a bunch of different things. So again, we're talking about devices, we're talking about apps, endpoint security is important, and then the reports and so on. So let's just go with the devices and start from there to start. So when I go to my devices, we can look at all devices, or we can go right to the Windows or iOS, Mac or Android. When I look at my devices here, so I can see I have all type of different devices and what is compliant or not, or what type of device it is, and you can see it show them all here. And then when I go to any of this thing, digging into all those, really also act as an inventory as well, because I can look at any device, see who is a user of this thing, look at the hardware of that, what kind of hardware, what kind of capability, and so on. And again, the endpoint devices could be anything. In this case, this is our Polycom in the office that I have here as a sample that we have. Again, that's a great thing about it. When you talk about endpoint, it's not just your PC here. It could be anything. And then again, within the devices, let's just go to Windows here. You got your compliance policies to make sure the devices are in compliance. You got your configuration policies, and there's lots of things you can set up really, and they're adding it more and more every day here. That the features that you can do. So all the group policies you would have traditionally on your on-premises that you apply to machines, they all can be applied through the Intune here. So when you go create a profile, for example, what I can do, Windows 10 or later, then I can go administrative template, for example, just show you a sample here. So you can see you have a control for lots of different things here. So from the control panel to the edge, to the security, to network, to OneDrive, printers, Skype. Again, I love these things because you have lots of control. One of the things that we do for our clients, for example, the OneDrive, how can we automate the process? So basically what you can do through configuration profile, you can make it that the device automatically log into the OneDrive, and also having your desktop and your My Document become a default folder for that. So you can do all those things from here. You want to set up a different type of encryption, and how is that if you want to provide additional pin for encryption and so on. Really, again, this is evolving at a very fast rate, and you have lots of options and future here that you have. There are certain things you might not be able to do just through the configuration. Then you have your PowerShell script that you can do. For example, I want to do a background image of all the devices. So what you do through PowerShell, you can set up those to kind of set up the configuration, push it to each PC, and have that those devices have that background image that you choose to have for them. And again, some organizations change the background on a monthly basis, and they can use it here. So again, we're working from home. They're using the background as a reminder of the events coming up for the month within the organization, or to kind of teach people what's happening with there, or anything that they want to do. So again, make it very easy. The user doesn't have to be in the office, could be anywhere, and you can control and so on, all those things. Then you also have your Windows enrollment, as I was mentioning. Within the enrollment, you have how you want to do it. You want to do the window hello enrollment status page, devices. This is where you go import those devices I was mentioning to you. That when you get that hash key from the vendor, you just go import the hash key here, and then when the user go through that process, association knows that, oh, this device belongs to Point Alliance. Let me kind of set that configuration for the user. So again, back to devices. Again, you got iOS policies and the configuration profile. So how the email is done, how is the restriction, a screen layout. Again, with the iOS devices, you can do a lot because you have full control of the screen and so on. So when I go to property, I can say the home screen, for example. Why do I see on the home screen? I have my mail, my calendar, my contacts, and so on. I have a folder called Office 365, and what I have inside there, you can see all those extra icons. Maybe you just want to make it easy for user that they don't get distracted with everything when you give them iOS devices. You can create a folder and move everything inside there. And on the dock, for example, what do I want to show on the bottom of it? I want to show phone, Safari, like a Microsoft Outlook. So you have control of all this, and it's just amazing. And when, especially make it easy for your support, because when somebody calls with the issue, they don't have to guess what's where. You know exactly where which icon going to be what at screen and so on. So you have all that controlled with the devices that, again, especially with the company devices. And then we got Mac OS and Android, and same thing with you got compliance policy with this here, and then you got the configuration that you have. Next thing is apps. Again, these are great. With the apps, what you do with the Android app, you sync with your Google account. With the iOS app, you sync with your Apple business account. And for Windows, what you can do. So if I go by the Windows here, what I can do, I can push any apps. And the nice thing about this one, that Microsoft Office apps, because all again part of the same environment, it knows what kind of license you have. So what I can do, for example, I can go to add and go to the Office 365 apps, Windows 10, and go here and select, for example. And so we're gonna go here and just choose few things, and I can say what kind of app I want. Maybe I don't want a publisher on the user, or I don't want a Skype for business. I want the Teams here. I can do that. Also, if you bought licenses for the Project Online or Visio, and you have access to those licenses, you can also push that to user. So let's just say you bought Visio for the licenses, and there are a couple of new people that they need those licenses. So you buy them licenses, you come in here, you give them the app, and before you know it, the app is already installed on those Windows devices. I mean, how great is that? And because using the tool, you don't need the user doesn't interact with the install. And even though the user doesn't have administrative access to that machine, Intune has that access to kind of be able to push those. And that's it, as simple as this. And again, there are lots of apps here that you can do from the Windows Store. You can add, and you can upload apps if you have MSI file for any product that you have. Again, lots of vendors provide the MSI file, so you go add, and all you have to do just go line of business accounts, and you will select a package MSI file, and again, then you're going to assign it who need to have it, and get enrolled in no time. So again, it just make it easy, one central place, and you can monitor all the machines to make sure they're in compliance or not. And they are secure, they're up to date. How much space on each person's machine is it? Okay, what kind of do they running out of the space? So that you can put lots of reminders. If the device become out of the compliance, you can notify the users and admin as well to say, okay, that machine is out of the compliance. You can give them a grace period to say, okay, for the next 20 days, for example, every 7 days get a reminder. But after 20 days, if they don't come in compliance, you can lock the device, for example. Again, it's very flexible, and you can choose how you want to approach that. So there is a couple of questions here I want to answer. The first question is that if I have the SCCM version, which is the configuration manager, do I need the endpoint licenses? Yes, there are two different licenses, and you would need both of them if you're going to have the co-managed device. The other question is that any option to join an on-premise domain using the auto deploy? Yes. So what it does call, if I go back to Windows here, I'll show you. So we're going to go back to the devices and Windows and Windows enrollment. So when you're creating a deployment profile, you have a couple of options here. So let's just say Windows PC. We're just going to give it a name. Demo profile. So here it's going to ask you, is this the Azure AD join or hybrid Azure AD join? Again, if you're making it a hybrid Azure AD join, need a bit of a configuration to make sure. And also the device need to be on premises to be kind of, or connected to the on-premise to be able to join the domain. So with this, the machine join the domain. And again, this is useful for the organization with a lots of legacy group policies and so on, which is kind of, it takes lots of effort to bring them everything to the Intune. So with the hybrid Azure join, the machine join the domain, and it will take advantage of all the policy you have on your organization, and also what you set up within the Intune. So definitely can be done. Again, there's a lot to cover, and I know we're reaching the end of our webinar today. And again, I wanted to kind of emphasize on the deployment, because that's very important these days. People, working remotely, and IT team is also working remotely, and becoming a challenge. How do we enroll these new devices? Again, initially we thought maybe we are working remotely for a month or two, but now we are a year into it. We might be another 6 months into it. And again, you're not able to do all those things without having even touched the device that you're enrolling. Basically, you can ship it to the user, whatever device it is a mobile device, Android, iOS, or Windows machine, and go through this process with a very little instruction, really. Usually what we provide is a one-pager for the user. I say, okay, follow this couple of screens, and you're all set. And once the user join, you will see it as part of the devices. So again, it will be display here, so you know they have joined. You can see if they're in a compliant. You can see what version of the software they have. And other thing that also this the tool does, which is very important, in making sure that you always have the latest version of the threat protection and so on. And again, the security for the endpoint security is a section by itself, but you got security baseline. So what they done, they come up with this baseline to make the life easy for the admins. They don't have to guess what should be at, and the baseline get updated on the, I think it's a quarterly basis. Then you got the antivirus, this encryption, firewall, and you get so much can be done. But one of those suggestions I make, just start simple but secure, and then you can add to it, because especially when you enroll in something like this, you want to make sure you add in this thing in the short phases to make sure you're not running into any problem. And that's what Point Alliance come to the picture, to kind of help you to enroll this initially, to get it up and running. So we do all the setup and configuration and help you work with you and your team to get the Endpoint Manager up and running. And after that, it will be easier to maintain. But again, it's just a great tool, and also help with the teams that they have multiple location. Even with that, it's not just through this COVID time. You want to push a new Wi-Fi profile. One of the security risks with lots of organizations is the Wi-Fi access, for example, that the people have to share the password of the Wi-Fi with their staff. With the Endpoint Manager, you don't have to. You create a profile, you push it, all the devices get updated, and so just that by itself make it very secure. So again, it's one of those things that the organization, they don't update those little things, they don't think about it, or Wi-Fi access, but that's the gateway right to your system. If a staff leaves or somebody get access to that, they're basically inside your network. So again, lots of great features here. I'd be happy to answer any question you have afterward. Feel free to reach out to me later through LinkedIn or through my email. And I want to thank you again for joining us today.